why are we looking to P. Diddy and Eric Adams and to the influencer class and to celebrities and to others? They're having freak offs. We need to be like having teach offs, right? So what is up with
Malcolm warned us.
see what I did there? You saw that Jesse
That was
Jackson type
good.
thing, right? See, that was
Yeah.
Jesse Jackson worthy. Y'all need to stop it. Stop playing with me. It is Freedom Friday and you are still not free. Welcome to another episode of Freedom Friday. It is Friday and you are still not free, but hopefully you will be freer after this hour with Ish, Sharif, and me. We are back at it again. We have not been here for a couple weeks, fellas, but there's a lot going on in Black world, Black news. Lots of stuff is happening and big stuff. And that is available to everybody to see, and then small stuff that nobody gets to see. And I want to talk about a couple of those things. So first of all, we've got celebrity issues. We got, one of the most powerful men in hip hop, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, who has gone down. And bro, listen, he's in jail, and they denied him $50 million bail because they consider him a flight risk. This dude is almost a billionaire, and this is the first time, probably in his lifetime, stuff is getting real for him because he's sitting in jail with no way out. And what I've been told, I don't know the system super well. What I've been told is that when the feds come after you for something, they have an ironclad case. They don't just like put you up on charges that you can beat very easily. They do their diligence to make sure they got you trapped. So there's a good chance that he will be going down for a long time. But the problem for the entire hip hop industry, and see, y'all have argued with me about this before, but I'm gonna be right this time, because see, I have told y'all that hip hop it's a plot, it's a psyop at this point, and people, oh no, there's some good hip hoppers and blah blah blah. I'm telling you, bro, this is a psyop. This is an industry. The people that now are about to go down because Diddy has tapes of them doing crazy and weird things right now, as we speak. There are executives, major high-ranking executives across multiple companies that are resigning en masse because they know what's about to come out. Yes, in all the big, you name a big label, a big company that does music, distributes music, and there are executives right now resigning and removing themselves. There are celebrities who are getting divorces because they know about what's about to come out. I am telling you, this has always been a psyop for the longest time. Listen, what is also in all of this is accusations that Puffy was behind Biggie and Tupac's death. How you feel about that, Hammer? Y'all want to tell me, oh, there's some good people in the... what is?
There is.
Okay, name them.
Listen, I'm so far removed now.
There you go.
Dead Prez?
Yeah, I mean, but he's talking about like current. He's talking about like current right now. So like, yeah, like in our 90s, yeah, there were tons and tons.
Yeah, 90s hip hop is dead.
Well, they're still releasing music.
Well, I mean, to who? Me and you.
That's cold, bro. That's cold.
Me and you.
But I'm laughing when you open up, because when we talked about like the topics of a little while ago, this is the one I was like, well, let's skip this one. This is the way he led with.
Exactly. Because you know what? It's a generational issue, right? Yeah. It's a generational issue.
I mean, but does this generation know him like that? Like the way that, like in the 90s, 2000? Maybe not the 90s. No, he was what, 2000?
I don't think that they would know him as much as old heads would know him. I think, though, the story that is coming out is just how corrupt the system is and the companies and who has power. He was a protege of Clive Davis. Clive Davis is 95 years old. Clive Davis has had a lot of suspicious deaths on his hands. He has had artists, the moment that they were going to leave him, they suddenly died of some weird situation, including Whitney Houston and going all the way back to Janis Joplin. That is who mentored Diddy. Diddy has had a string of people who, when they were trying to leave Bad Boy Records, suddenly caught pneumonia and died, including his wife or his ex-girlfriend, his long-term girlfriend, artists, including Al B. Shore and others, record producers, anybody. There's been a string of people around him that all just get this weird form of pneumonia and just die. And it's coming to light that this industry is a gangster industry We look at these dudes, they're like dancing around with champagne and stuff, and behind the scenes, there's some other stuff that's happening, right?
Yeah, I mean that world. I mean, writ large. I mean, I think it's always got a little bit of maybe a lot of funk to it, you know. And I think yeah. I mean, I don't know enough, but I do know. I just think like just the Hollywood scene, whether it's the Hollywood scene in California, the Hollywood scene in New York, or wherever it might be. Like, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the artists tell you like it's a shady. The record industry is shady, right? You know, the Tribe said it. You know, multiple people say it in their songs, but they still got songs. You know, people still bopping, right? So,
I think we put up with a lot of stuff. I mean, there was tapes not long ago that came out of him beating a woman, his girlfriend, Cassie, in the hotel on camera in the hallway. And this is one of those things that came up. He apologized for it and tried to come out and, you know, clean it up a little bit. And then it's not news anymore, right? For not that amount of time. I have always just said, go ahead, Ish.
No, I was going to say it hits kind of close to home because there's pictures of him and Meek Mill, you know, who's a rapper from Philly, big in Philly, wearing matching outfits and hugging up on each other. And
there's worse
like
than that.
Yeah,
there's worse than that.
I'm not even going to go into the depth of that, and it's okay if he you know swings that way, but like the over masculinity that's in hip hop, the overemphasis of conquering women. Right. The thing that is pumped out to the youth about what makes a man. And then this type of thing is going, down like that. I find that extremely troubling. And, I don't know if you saw in the news about 6-7 days ago, they put P. Diddy on suicide watch in the prison. I'm thinking, are they going to Epstein this man? Because
absolutely.
Because like, what does he know? Who does he know? And then all the things that you're surrounded. I mean, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of interests involved. Everybody back in the day knew with his parties, a lot of baby oil. And the thing that drove me crazy about baby oil, why would you keep so much on deck, bruh? Like, I remember when he did Making the Band and he would send someone halfway across town for a cheesecake. You know what I mean? Like, you got people on deck to go get you these things. Why do you got so much of this at your crib, bruh? So like these type of questions for me are just like something's up, there's smoke. So obviously there's a fire. And then it makes me even question like the full extent of like these parties that he used to have. I forget the word that they had for those, Johns. But like I can tell you right now, my sons who are like 16, 17, they reference P. Diddy. So the youth are talking about this.
Okay, they do know.
They do know. So it's just a real interesting dynamic.
All right, so I know you old heads aren't going to know enough of the details. Let me just tell you this right now.
Listen, all I saw was a picture with a bunch of baby oil. That's all I've seen, and that he was arrested. I did see before, but like that wasn't the first time I heard about him and many other rappers. The misogyny of them beating women, right? Like that has been a consistent theme, unfortunately, in some parts, right? But not just them. A lot of entertainers, and guess what? Folks who are not on TV. Just folks who are regular folks, so the misogyny and the violence towards women, towards Black women and women of color on top of that, like all of that, right? Like you look at the stats of indigenous women being murdered or disappeared, right? Like it's anti-women, I mean, that's the hate, the violence towards other human beings, but particularly the ones who are most vulnerable in societies is just disgusting. I mean, it happens particularly when you have money, you're protected. You have another layer of protection.
And when you have power and position and, so on an education show like this, where we're talking about liberating ourselves and freeing ourselves, I have a couple of questions. Number one is, why would we be pumping into the ears of our children corporate messages about fratricide and hating ourselves and killing a nigga and killing a hoe and all that stuff? Why would that be our soundtrack? And if freedom was the goal, what would be the soundtrack of freedom that would be the wallpaper behind our kids and in their ears or whatnot? And it wouldn't be this. It wouldn't be Combs. But Combs actually, so getting back to this case, because I feel like I've been saying in multiple shows, anytime hip hop comes up, I talk about the conversion of the hip hop that we owned to the corporate monster that hip hop became. Hip hop is not for us, by us anymore. We do not run the organizations. We work for people that profit off of the organizations of our culture. That culture vulture thing is real, right? And I think we want to protect it because it still sounds like our voice. It's still kind of like what we owned or whatever. There's a reason that there has never been another PE, and there are so many Lil Waynes, right? Talking about there's no racism in the world. I don't know nothing about no black lives matter. My audience is white, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason why there's more of him than there is of the serious artists that are the real liberation lyrics that we should have. But anyways, so there are 50 witnesses and 300 warrants testifying with the feds right now against this brother, saying that his entire house was wired with cameras in every room. He hired sex workers to lure different artists and business people and whatever into these freak off parties that they had. And these freak off parties that he had were famous and legendary in the industry for being completely unabashed, crazy, debauchery, all caught on tape. So he's got industry leaders, he's got other hip hop artists, and you mentioned Meek Mill. What's on tape with Meek Mill and a whole bunch of other people like Will Smith and others, Ashton Kutcher, a whole bunch of different very.
He's a rapper too.
Justin Bieber. No, I'm talking like this is Hollywood people just in general. Jamie Foxx, others. Everybody's on tape. Over the years, everybody has, he's like the Hugh Hefner of these tapes, but it was all a ploy. This is why you need 700 bottles of baby oil and all this stuff, is because they were luring them into these big parties and filming them in very compromising positions and situations. And it's all household names that you know. And the fallout is about to be pretty large. Now, this is the part where you're going to be like, oh, Chris fell down you fell down the well too far. And you getting into conspiracy stuff. Bruh, listen, I'm telling you.
5 minutes ago.
No, this is how it gets even worse with me on my conspiracy theory stuff is there are accusations that Combs and others. See, before it even comes out of my mouth, I know how this is going to sound, but they were on some voodoo stuff, right? So they were on some spiritual religious stuff about all this. It's going to come out, so I'm not going to look so crazy once this all hits the record. I'm only saying this to say it's more than him getting arrested when you dig into the details. The feds have got him on some serious extortion charges and power plays, and it leads to people dying, people not playing the game or whatever. He was very smart, criminally insane with inviting, like Epstein did, very important and powerful people to come and participate in these freak-offs. Epstein was very smart to make sure that the people were very powerful. So if he ever went down, but we see what happened to him, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm going to leave this alone, except to say, what's the educational value here is I think that there are powers and principalities taking place behind the scenes on many of the things that we think are normal, that we don't see all of it. And it is, I think, part of the world that our kids live in. It is somebody else educating our kids against our best interest, in my mind. And I think there's a reason why we don't see a whole bunch of socially conscious hip hop that are telling our kids to be doctors and astronauts rather than kill each other and slap their women around.
I mean, listen, I do think that, at that level, I just think that the educational piece and sharing with our children, I think is important that their spirits remain as pure as possible for as long as possible. And the thing that I think scares me the most about society is how much younger and younger and younger our kids are exposed to absolute foolishness and mayhem, like spiritual mayhem. Before it gets to like the terms of the physical, it's the spiritual, it's the energy that, when I see mothers and fathers, when I see parents or siblings having a 3-year-old, repeat lyrics that are just like why put that in a child's psyche, even if they don't know what it means, but why introduce that? And if you think it's cute and everything as a 3-year-old, then how far does it go? But at the same time, it also speaks to me about the positionality of power and wealth and entertainment and in general, like, because I don't want to put it, parents, obviously, as a community, we have a real critical, important, like, we are the fortress. We are the fortress to protect our children, and like you often say, like, I'm the CEO of my child's education, like, we're also the fortress of that. And we have so many holes, in our fortress that it's constantly being bombarded, constant bombardment. And I think it's almost like a warring nation. They say the CIA, when they want to go after a country, it's not just the bombs and all this thing. They spend like hundreds of millions in like propaganda. And so why would we be surprised that that same kind of thing is also internal? Like, we have internal propaganda, that's constantly pumped, towards the people, right? Like, when they call America experiment, I do think they experiment here and then export it there, so no surprises. It's just like the work, man, is just, it's just unbelievable, like how much we have to do. But I do think that a spiritual aspect, a cultural revolution, is absolutely necessary for us to protect our babies and ourselves. Should.
Yeah, and Sharif, I think you hit right in the heart, man. This is something deeper. And Chris, real quick, I want to call it voodoo. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about voodoo, bro. Don't disparage voodoo like that.
Yeah, that's wrong. That was on that. They're on some like Satanist type stuff. You know what I mean? Worshiping owls and all that. But
I don't think that they know the difference.
Well, whatever the difference is,
I think they're casting spells on people, and
roots. What they used to call it, putting a root on you or something.
Yeah, something. But like, still, it's not rooted.
Crazy that you know that, bro. Crazy that you know that.
That was a deep South thing. I would just hear like the elders say something like that. Be careful, they put a root on you.
Yeah. But like, I think that speaks to where we're at, as a society, and even the folks in this society, even if they're a little skewed in what they view how they view the world. The whites in this country, they also kind of feel that something is going off, right, with the way things are operating. Not necessarily agreeing with their conclusions, right, but it's still something off right now. And instead of like socializing our children to kind of think of something different, our children are being socialized to be like P. Diddy, being socialized to have this type of thing that doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters that you get there, and it's financially based. It's money based, right? And then it feeds into this type of thing. It's like no values, no type of center, no type of real soul spirituality. It just becomes a free fall where, the devil taking the hindmost. And I think we got to be very clear about that nowadays. So, and I even put in the John, like, these are the times what's done in the dark will come to light. And so we see all these type of things happening where all these folks are being exposed, but then who's doing the exposing? Those are the folks also, because we on camera every single day, y'all. They monitor our, who we communicate with. They know what we buy. They know what we talk about at our house in order to market to us certain products. I mean, all these things are documented and known about. But like, that is going to be really troubling as time goes on, especially as these things start to really hit the fan.
I feel like we're fighting a losing battle sometimes with our own kids, because there's no perfect book that was written on this as a parent of what you do in these situations. And your kids are going to find it no matter what. The prevalence of it is, even if you outlaw it in your own house, they're going to find it. Even if you say, don't you ever listen to this, blah, blah, blah. As a matter of fact, if you say, don't listen to this, blah, blah, blah.
That might be the green light.
I was about to say that increases the opportunities. That increases the chance that they're probably going to go find it and like it a lot. Oh, you don't like this? Well, then let me. And listen now, my kids are at the age now, my last of the herd are at the age now where they're starting to tell me no. What do you mean no? Like just no. Baby girl, you can't wear that. Yes, I can. What? It's just, baby boy, you can't be doing what you're doing right now. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, I can. Bro, listen. And then you go, we had a show about spanking and beating and all that type of stuff. So once you take that off the table,
which it should be off.
You see, you just said it should be off the table. But then you got kids that know that it's off the table, and then they start saying stuff to you like, no. See, now what? Checkmate. Checkmate. Can't beat him.
Yes, but my thing is, and I know we don't necessarily want to go all the way down. I do think we should bring the sister on, if we ever can. I'm blanking on her name, but she wrote a book,
Stacey Patton?
Yeah, Stacey Patton. Yeah. If we can get her, I think it would be incredible. And the fatherhood panel you're doing at BMAC, I think, I'm hoping, Chris, that you make this definitely a topic. But I think we're all those things are lessons, because what we're saying, you said no, so I'm gonna assault you. If as a human being, as a learning machine and spirit that I am, what you're teaching me is people say no, pop them in the mouth, So like it's that lesson, you know what I mean? Like people act like those lessons to kids, like I'm gonna beat you because you got to teach you to be obedient. That doesn't stay in a container a lot of times. When I used to work with imprisoned adults, man, I would say 99% of them would say, oh yeah, I used to get the shit beat out of me from my parents. But they were there, and many of them were there for beating, like some kind of assault or whatever, right? Like, so that it doesn't stay in this kind of finite container. Like it has implications of how to resolve conflict, how to resolve disagreement, how to respond to no, right? Like, so, and it's like the power dynamic. Oh, you're more powerful than me, so this gives you the right to do this. Then if I internalize that, then that's my outlook on life. I'm gonna wield my power when things go down, So, and again, it can be mitigated. It's I'm like, decomplexing a complicated thing. But yeah.
Simplifying, bro. It's called oversimplifying. You're oversimplifying. They're like, okay, listen, you tell me no, and we could have a problem. And the fact of the matter is, the reason that they tell me no is exactly my fault, in that I am trying to raise free people. I am a laissez-faire type of parent. As tough as I talk and all that type of stuff, I'm laissez-faire, bruh. Like I am very much, I think spoiling and too. I take it too far when I say I'm trying to raise free people, because I want them to be free on me. I just want them to be free on the rest of the world. Yeah, don't tell me no. Tell the rest of the world no, but
they got to practice.
I pay the rent.
Being free takes practice.
Yeah.
All right. We're best to practice in the safety of Baba Chris.
Nah, I think, practice somewhere else, like leave me alone. All right, well, listen, the second issue that I want to jump around to, because, we're talking about powerful Black people today and how Black people can be powerful. And in New York, Mayor Eric Adams is facing lots of pressure right now to resign after it came to light that he is facing major indictments for a foreign corruption problem. The foreign corruption problem is that he has been given gifts that he hasn't reported from a foreign country, specifically Turkey. And that is just the tip of the iceberg of some of his nefarious dealings. I think some of it includes misusing campaign funds or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, again, federal case. When the feds come after you, it is not something to laugh off, because they probably got you on some things once they get you to the point where they have indicted you. So, he's facing calls to resign. He gave a press conference yesterday that I think was very interesting and funny, because he surrounded himself with some super Afrocentric looking people behind him. Now, Adams, in his entire time, hasn't been in love with Black people. As a matter of fact, he's been in love with some of the others more than us. And he's been Mr. Super Pro Cop and Mr. We got to get prayer back in the schools, and Mr. sounding very much like a conservative Republican, not an actual big city Democrat. But now that he's in trouble, this is what we do. Like when OJ was, when OJ was in trouble, and they wanted to take the jurors to his house. Johnny Cochran had somebody go to his house and replace all the pictures of white people with pictures of Black people because there were none. That's what's happening with Eric Adams now. The backdrop of his press conference yesterday was a whole bunch of Afrocentric individuals, but he was getting shouted down by real Black people who the entire press conference, there was somebody across the street or nearby with a bullhorn screaming out, "You are a disgrace. This ain't a Black thing. You are not with us," blah, 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 which I think I wouldn't bring that up because I think it's an interesting point in what should we expect from our Black leaders? And when should we defend them and when should we not defend them? And which ones can come home after not being with us for a long period of time? And what are the conditions and the terms? So that's a lot. I just said a lot. What do you guys think about? You guys are East Coast folks more so than I am, but what do you think about this question around how much we should be defending folks? You know, what should we expect from our leaders? When do we cut them loose? You know, what's our power play here when we see an Eric Adams type situation?
Yeah, I mean, I was not aware of like everything that was going down until that press conference. Like I saw a clip of the press conference. At first, you know, my thing nowadays, I'm like, wait a minute, is that a voice over or is that a real person? You know, so I didn't know, but I was like, you know, it's interesting. I did see, my first reaction was the pic, you know, like everybody that was surrounding him. And I was like, how come he didn't have the mounted police surrounding him or, the cops? Like, that's what I thought was his main support, his main, group of allies. So I was like, bro, like, you know, stay sturdy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they're your people, stay with your people. So that was the one thing that I took away. Then I started reading it, and you know, I read an article, and I was like, oh, this is like way deeper. Like, I mean, it was interesting. I'm like, Turkey is, you know, I was just like, wow, like I don't always hear that country
I know
trying in like an American politics. I was like, oh, all right, like this is so it just I would say the one thing that did stick out to me was the mayor hires the chancellor, and and the Chancellor Banks is resigning. And I thought about just like the million students, you know, and needing more stability. And this is a huge disruption. But then also, you know, though at least the article said superintendent is not in as part of this investigation, but just the proximity to the fire, you know. And I would say that, look, Black folks, if you want to come home before your people turn on you, before the folks that you wielded against the rest of us. Come home before that, right? You know what I mean? Like don't sick your dogs on us, and then the dogs bite you. Then you come here, like, you know, for some salve. Like, I mean, that's a little, like, you know, be sturdy. There's 10 toes down, stay there.
Word, and that's interesting you say that, because it seems like that always does happen when folks do start catching that fire. They run back to the community and try to be like, hey, I'm all, you know, like I saw that too. It looked like he had like some of the fruit of Islam behind him.
Bro, we're loving, forgiving, and gullible.
Yeah, and there are already folks saying that, you know, it's partly because he's Black. And there's probably some truth to that, right? Because I know that stuff is going down with multiple people. But like Bob Menendez just went down to New Jersey for accepting money from Egypt, having bars of gold in his pockets in his house.
Yeah, Egypt and Turkey. Like, the world is truly flattened, right? Like, because those weren't used to be the folks that you would hear about, at least anyway. I mean, maybe it was always happening. I don't know.
Well, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about with Puff Daddy, right? Or P. Diddy, or whatever his name is. And it goes back to this idea that the number one goal is to accumulate these things, and it doesn't matter how you get them. So these people like blur the lines between what actual leadership should be and their own individual benefits. And those individual benefits are usually monetarily based. And so when you blur those lines to a certain degree, and then you have to sell out in order to get there, and then turn around and be like, oh, I'm caught up into this. I need my communities back. You know what I mean? That is some of the most problematic behavior that our leadership, quite frankly, has engaged in. And to be a leader within the largest city in the United States, right? A mayor of New York City, like that is crazy. The fact that he's just involved as taking gifts from foreign governments, if he's doing that, I don't want to say that he's convicted of it yet. But like all these type of things speaks to the character and the overall values that this society puts out. Now I'm going to keep on returning to that, because I see that completely a strand link between like P. Diddy and all that nonsense, and then this nonsense, right? Of folks getting caught up into what this society measures humans' worth based upon very dubious things. And then when the chickens come home to roost, bro, You want to run back to the community that you neglected, that you wanted to lock up, that you think is something wrong with us. So I just get very angry when I think about the full gravity of what a lot of these misleaders represent in our community.
Misleaders. And Chris, you know what? I think, Chris, you asked an important question is like, because I think it's still, it doesn't absolve the system for being the system, right? And so even if the system burns one of their own, it doesn't mean that we stop fighting the system. Because the system by itself, standalone, is anti-human. It doesn't respect humanity. It tries to grind, people to the dust, right? Like all these kind of things. And we have people who are wielding that system, and then they sometimes get burnt by the very thing that they were enamored with. But it doesn't mean that we're like, I think we still fight the system, even if we're not necessarily defending the actions of so-and-so, right? Because that same system, just murdered a brother in Missouri, right? So it's the same, the system itself is continue, it's like doing all kind of stuff, so we can't just be like, oh, take our eyes off that big picture too. This is it's huge, but it's also a tiny story compared to how many, innocent people are on death row, or, how many schools are not funded, or how many, politicians are in their position because of wealth and shady deal, right? Like all of those kind of things are continuing to happen at the same time. So it's a complicated mess. Stay woke. Keep fighting.
Bring it back. Bring it back. So y'all let them take that from you. You better bring it back. Stay woke. It's still important today. So I'm driving somewhere with these topics that we're talking about. The first one, we're talking about a leader in Black capitalism, and that is P. Diddy. And our relationship to him is a little bit of a parasocial relationship where we feel like he's one of us or a member of the family or whatnot. No, he's a leader in Black capitalism, and he's having a downfall from it now. And I'm not going to put up with him. Like if he tries to do some Afrocentric, this is a race bait thing. After all that he's done in his life, hanging with Donald Trump and all of that, it's just not going to work. So we move on to a leader in government, Eric Adams, so this is representation. We got a Black governor, Black mayor of a major city, not a major city, the most major city in the country, led by a Black man who has had his way with us, with his words, demeaning us and telling us that we're part of our problem and standing with other people and other countries and other communities more than us when it comes to police. So there you go. There goes your representation. And Sharif, you just hit on something very different that I think there's a connection to what we should be asking about Black leadership. Marcellus Williams executed in Missouri amid strong claims that he was innocent, including the victim's family, the prosecutor, and others who believed that he should not be executed because his case did not beat the beyond a reasonable doubt expectation or criteria for executing somebody. DNA evidence was corrupted in his case. And as a matter of fact, it didn't show anything that he did. As a matter of fact, it showed somebody else had other people's DNA, including the DNA of some of the law enforcement.
Of the DA.
Like the DA. So that was crazy. That was weird.
That's bars. We should make a song about that.
How I think this relates to Black leadership is this way. So this man, Marcellus Khalifa Williams, was executed last Tuesday for a 1998 killing of a former newspaper reporter. Prosecutors say that they had a strong case back then, but they don't think it's strong anymore. And this particular governor who allowed him to die, who didn't help him, didn't step in to pardon him, actually had a connection in the old days to the old case. And this went all the way up to the Supreme Court with multiple, with the entirety of the Republican appointed Supreme Court justices putting this man to death, basically, even as they all say they're so pro-life. I mean, they reversed Roe versus Wade because of the sanctity of life, but they let this man die because of the sanctity of life is about white life. It's not about Black life. I say all this how this relates to leadership is in this way. Where was the leadership? Where was the campaign? Where's the outcry? Where were the celebrities? There's a young lady right now who worked on this case for the last 3 years trying to get this man freed. She worked for the Innocence Project, I think. She was one of the reps that would contact influential people to try and get them on board, to like just say something about this, put it in your social media, whatever. No response for many of them. The unanswered DMs for many of them, including some social media influencers who make their money online, being influencers around social justice, criminal justice, all that type of stuff. So where was the Black leadership? Where's the NAACP? Where was the Black leaders in representative positions? Where was anybody in Congress or anybody? As it was known to almost everybody who was looking at this, that this man should not be executed right now, that he deserves another look at his case. Where was the Black leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I think, man, two things. I think one, people are afraid to be, one, just fear. Like, there's a thing about fear, and out of groups that people are afraid of the FOP. Out of many groups, like they're afraid of coming out and saying something, even as they're fighting for criminal justice. Sometimes people are reluctant to say a particular person's name. Like, people may whisper ideas of justice behind the door, but they might not want to say it if they got 2 million, followers or whatever, right? Like that's become the measure for something. So I can say something abstract, like, oh, the system and is corrupt, and da, da, da. But if I put it, individualize it, a person may be more reluctant, because I same thing. I mean, we're talking about Marcellus, in this today, because he was executing people not saying anything. I know people who say they fight for criminal justice. They believe it's racist. They believe the disproportionality is engineered, but they won't say Mumia's name in public. They won't say it on social media.
Say whose name?
Mumia Abu Jamal.
Tell people who that is.
So Mumia Abu Jamal was on death row. He's no longer on death row because of the constant activism and people internationally understanding that, he was being railroaded. We believe he's innocent. We believe that he was accused of shooting a police officer who died, killing a police officer. And we believe that the system was so corrupt, and always, like, it's always corrupt, but sometimes it's sloppy on top of the corruptness. And you could see the sloppiness. You could see where they were clearly biased, which, they're clearly, the judge is saying, oh yeah, I am going to find him guilty before it's even brought to trial. We can see the inconsistencies. We could see all of these things. And he's not alone in this, right? Like, he'll often say, like, I'm not alone. I'm like one of many who are in a very, very similar situation. But it would be easier for me to talk about the injustice of the system, but avoid saying anybody particular name that may incite anger from a group that I might be trying to curry favor with at the same time, right? And so I think a lot of people are trying to navigate space. And, I mean, people are in different positions. People are in different, structures, systems, blah, blah, blah. So, I try to at least understand where they are, where they're coming from, because everyone, they may be in a precarious situation themselves, and I think when you're talking about like life and death, somebody got to say something, like there has to be, but at the same time, it's always going to be the minority. I've never once, I think in my entire life, ever thought that it would usually be the majority on some of these big issues. You might get a majority on a particular thing. I'm talking about like just overall, we talk about this a lot. Majority of Black people weren't supporting King, so if you can't get behind peaceful demonstration, they thought that was too rowdy, right? Mm-hmm, like, because we have folks like, no, just we can change, but it might take them 100 years, but let's just go the route that'll get there without causing a lot of hoopla, right? So that's that's people in people's DNA, man.
And people need to throw away this idea that this is a fair and just system when it comes to
It's
black
that
folks
part,
in this
right? Like
country.
they mesmerized by this
Like,
again,
oh my Lord.
propaganda. Like
Yeah.
just like where? What part? When?
Yeah.
How?
I remember when I started teaching, I think it was my second year in, when Troy Davis and that brother was executed despite all the proof and to the contrary that he actually did the crime himself. This is like, you can, every like couple years, this seems like this happens. And, you know, I think of in Philadelphia, the Move 9. You know, they locked them brothers and sisters up for 40 years.
40.
For one police officer who was shot, maybe even by friendly fire.
Not maybe. It was in the back.
It was
in the trajectory.
In the trajectory.
The cops shot their own, but they said, we're putting y'all in jail for 40 years.
For 40 years.
We had to shoot, you know?
And so, like, this is what America is. And we need to stop thinking, or like folks need to stop putting it out there that this is some type of shock. This is why you need to fight against it. This is why you have to be vocal. This is why, regardless of anything, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. You might as well rock out right now. Because if you don't rock out right now, you're going to turn around one day and the things and the people you're trying to curry favor with are going to turn around and use that against you. I mean, like, dude, like this is like the theme of this show. And when we look at this reality, man, our children aren't being taught this. They know more about what's happened with P. Diddy than that brother who was executed. I didn't even know about it, and I pay attention about these things until it was almost at the end of what was happening. I didn't know about any of the activism or organizing that was going down.
Yeah, I heard about the brother late too.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and one of the reasons I hadn't heard about it is because, you know, their communications team was trying to get people to publicize the issue and get it out into the broader public, and it was hard. They were having a hard time getting even people from the area who had connections there to Missouri or whatnot. It was hard to get them to use their platforms to get this out there. And what we know for a fact is when people use their platforms, it popularizes an issue to the point where some action can be taken. But if people know that there's no watch on us, no one's watching us, like this governor pardoned other people. He pardoned, but if you look at the list of people he pardoned, I mean, just we can move on from this, but two of the people that he pardoned was that husband and wife team in St. Louis that held guns on the protesters as they were walking by. They got arrested for that. It was a crime, what they did. They got arrested for that, and he pardoned them. See, some crime is pardonable, right? There are people right now that are talking about the January 6th insurrectionists who vandalized the nation's capital as political prisoners. Now, they beat up cops. In a couple of cases, cops lost their lives. They vandalized the nation's capital. Now, imagine, we've said this before, and what I'm about to say is not profound, but imagine, make that group not white. Make that group a bunch of black people that sacked the Capitol, right, and vandalized everything and took a crap on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Now make those people black, right? And would anybody be talking about their political prisoners? Like, oh, you know, it was just one day and I don't know, they were upset or something. I don't know what the rationale is. But here's where I'm driving with this, because this will get us home, which is maybe we're looking at the wrong people for leadership. Black capitalists are not going to save us. Black electeds are not going to save us. The Black celebrity class and influencer class that love to talk about social justice are really not going to save us either. But I just got back from Houston. I was able to see a school in Houston, started in 1966, and I want to talk a little bit about this. It's the Beatrice Mays Institute. It's a Wonderland school in Houston. It was started by Beatrice Mays and Thomas Mays, who were both experienced educators in Houston. They started first, though, with something called the Wonderland Private School at Dixie. It opened in 1966 with about 30 students. They were known as the Wonderland Private School, a program that thrived with Black kids. And they educated thousands of kids from ages 18 months to 4 years over their 55-year history. But in 1985, they expanded. So they made the school bigger. It wasn't just about being the early grades. They went up to 8th grade because, like many people who start these things, figure out, okay, kindergarten's not enough. First grade's not enough. Okay, we got to add a third grade.
Where do I send my kids afterwards? Like, that's one of the big kind of complexities. Like, wait, this is a great K-2, but whoa, I'm seeing what my students are, where they are, my former students in 4th, and they've been changed by that. And I'm like, oh, we got to build, to protect them even more, educate them more. So,
I think that's the lesson of Head Start. We get them all prepared, send them to schools, and in the first 3 grades, they lose everything that they had, all the advantage that they had. But in 2001, Beatrice Mays Institute became a public charter school. And the brother that runs this school is a NASA scientist. So obviously you have 2 Black educators start this school. Their son becomes, a NASA educated scholar, whatnot. And he says, I'm going to take this school and make it available to more people by making it charter. 2001. We just got back from the school. We looked at it over the last couple of days. We talked to families there. And their rootedness in the community is so deep and so obvious. The building that they are in is the cleanest I've ever seen. Bruh, listen, as we were sitting there, it was the end of the day and they were doing the end of the day cleaning, and I've never seen anything like it. This building is like beautiful, smells good, spotless, has hydration stations, and this looks like they intend for kids to be treated like they're
where we what yeah, that's beautiful, man.
It's
I'm so
amazing.
bummed I couldn't make it, man, but it sounds, everything that I've heard y'all talking about in the aftermath is absolutely beautiful, and that's what all of our kids deserve, man.
And this is so what all our kids deserve. I love that as the point. That's the punctuation here. The story that I'm trying to tell is that this is Black leadership, right? What you're trying to do to build a pipeline, a critical pipeline of Black male educators, is Black leadership, right? Building the infrastructure, the social, economic, and educational infrastructure that we need to take care of ourselves and to win. That's leadership. Leadership isn't getting elected to something and then doing nothing, or joining the other team and telling us how bad we are and we deserve to get our asses kicked. That's not leadership. Leadership is not looking for the spotlight, not looking for the camera, but building something durable for the people. And that's the whole kind of, I think, the point of everything we talked about today. Sounded like a bunch of random issues, but when you pull them all together at the end of the day, why are we looking to P. Diddy and Eric Adams and to the influencer class and to celebrities and to others? They're having freak offs. We need to be like having teach offs, right? So what is up with see what I did there? You saw that Jesse Jackson type thing, right? See, that was Jesse Jackson worthy. I need to stop it. Stop playing with me.
Now you should have added the Jesse Jackson with an Umar and repeated it 3 or 4 times.
Stop it. Stop it. I don't want to take people's money and I don't want to take people's money and not open the school. I'm talking about real leaders, right? So what do you think about this point, though, is that next month we're going to be in Philly with hundreds of Black male educators. That's leadership, right? That's a room full of leadership. Now, that's not going to be on MSNBC as the thing that night, right? That's not going to be the lead story, as Puffy's story is going to be the lead story. These brothers, this brother in Houston and many like him, you could probably name others. And Ish, you could probably name people that in your syndicate of social studies teachers or whatnot who deserve to be called, that's the Black leader group, right? What do we do to elevate that as the real leadership of Black folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's continuing to connect the dots, make sure this constellation on Earth is not, hindered with, distractions, pollution, noise pollution, light pollution, all the things that keep us from seeing each other, and working together. I think, back to, I can't see your hat, but I imagine it says organize. Yeah. So that right there, organizing. Like, I think that part, organizing allows us to connect the dots, but organizing isn't just people. Organizing is, you organize ideas, you organize resources, you organize people, right? Like that, I think is that's really our only defense mechanism, really, to be honest. Like I keep going around, I keep thinking like, what about, my entire life since childhood, thinking about like, I think at the end of the day, it's organizing, and it is the most challenging thing to do, and it gets more challenging the more advanced we become, which is, it seems like it should be the opposite, but it's not. Folks were more organized when they were horse and buggy and writing letters that takes a month to get there than we are now when it's instantaneous. It's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy, but that is how it is.
Yeah. And Sharif, I want to co-sign that whole idea of organize and even supporting the folks who are doing the work, man. And I definitely want to uplift Sharif and all the work and all the support that he has like showed folks that he has brought, to the surface, brought to the light. And it starts with that, man. We need to be a light in this world. And, other folks see that. And you don't got to pretend, you don't got to be something that you're not. You got to be yourself. And when you're with yourself, you bring other folks who want to be like, oh, snap, like, I never heard of this. What's this about? What I'm hearing about? Like, so like every time I talk about BMEX conference with brothers across the country, they're like, oh, snap, really? They got something like that? I'm like, yeah, there's one brother, Sharif, da, da, da. And you bring these
brother,
people.
It's all of us, right?
Well, you know what I mean, though? Like, that's the leadership, right? It's not trying to be anything. It's not trying to get on TV and have, it's actually having a vision that's rooted with our ancestors' wildest dreams, and then using the power that we do have to make that become reality, man. And very few people actually even understand what that even means, brother. But like, I gotta say, like, that's the work. And we need to bring more people into the fold, organize them, have these conversations, and be very clear. You ain't just talking about putting more Black teachers in the classroom just because, all skin folk and kin folk, right? You're talking about bringing Black teachers because they bring a certain perspective, and that perspective affirms humanity. That brings life. And that those folks need to know, if they don't know already, that they're part of that intellectual genealogy that really allowed our folks to survive, man. So like when I think of all what they call like the modern civil rights movement, all them folks talk about their teachers. Their teachers are the ones that put them on game. That's what folks point to. And so like, I know when I see my former students, and I even, one of my former students put out a rap song recently, and I had to hit him up because on the rap song, he's talking about like, yo, when did these kids start coming out of cars, out of hoopties, shooting each other? Where are we going? Like, what's going on? And I hit him up and I was like, yo, bro, this is dope. Like, he's like, yeah, man, I'm on a mission with this. And see, like that's the conversations that we need to start having with folks, and then bringing up our children along, man, and recognizing that we're in the divine conversation also with our ancestors on this journey. And it's like full circle with that, man. So I just want to say salute, Sharif, Chris, creating a platform for us to even have real conversations around these topics.
And not one platform, many platforms.
Many platforms.
Too many. But this is what I'll say about everything that you just said, though, is like, that is my message for today. What you just said, like your work, Ish, I've talked to more than one educator who have students come back and see them after time. That's your legacy. That's how you know you did something. That's a stake in the ground. That's like leadership, right? Like knowing that you did generations of people that it could come back and see you on their graduation day and say, look at what I did, That to me is uplifting the race in a way that is tangible. It's material. You can see it with your own eyes in the lives of people. That to me is the best type of leadership we have right now. I've been inviting people to come to Philly in November who have nothing to do with being a Black male educator. I just think it's a time where it has so much power that there's that many people in a room, that there's that many people in the same place, come for a lot of different reasons, right? Because these are the type of leadership opportunities that aren't, I think, broadcasted. Starting a school, teaching, Ish, not just teaching social studies, but being part of a network of individuals nationally who are making each other better in the teaching of social, right? Because like, you're not by yourself, you're not the thing. Together with others, you're the thing. So
Ish is in East
I know.
Africa,
This brother like going international with it, bro. There's enough work to still be done here. So just so you know, I know you want to go to Africa and do things in other places, but this learning together, having a communal learning system is the real leadership we need, because I think, as I always say, the revolution will be literate. That before anything else, the revolution will be literate.
That's one of the panels at BMAC, and the theme of Right to Read Philly, Chris.
It's the power. It's the secret. It's the secret, I think, weapon. Before everything else, become literate and know your history, but not just know your history, know the analysis of your existence. It's not just history. It's right now. It's like, how do these things apply to right now? So anyways, to everybody who is doing, I know we got to wrap now, but everybody who's doing what Sharif does, what Ish does, this event that I went to in Houston The reason that I was in Houston is because our brother, Dr. Charles Cole, has put together this plan to recreate the Niagara meetings. The first Niagara meetings were the ones that created the NAACP years ago, led by W.E.B. Du Bois. And that is what's being recreated through Charles's work. Dr. Cole's work is to recreate those meetings. We've been to 5 cities so far, and we've been to 4 cities. We have one more. We're going to go to Chicago, but we've been, to your guys' city. We've been to Philly. We've been to Atlanta. We've been to Memphis, and we've been just now to Houston. We're going to Chicago after that. And then after that, we're going to take what we learned from grassroots people, educators and families, students, and whatever. Dr. Cole is putting that into a report, and we're going to take that to Black leaders, Black education leaders, and say, this is what the people in multiple cities have said about their education. That is leadership to me. Dr. Cole putting that together and thinking that through and watching his process for using real community data gathering, real community research is dope. And I have to mention J. Artist Wright, who leads the Freedom Coalition. It's an education organization. She also is one of the forces behind this work. So she's doing very, very, very dope work in getting people like Dr. Mays, who is from the school that we visited, getting people like him to be the star of the show. She's getting people like him to unite and connecting him to the brother in Sacramento who's doing something very similar, and the sister that's doing something very similar in St. Louis, connecting those people, right? That's power. That's leadership. So shout out to you, Sharif. Shout out to you, Ish. Shout out to Dr. Cole. Shout out to J. Artist Wright. Shout out to everybody who isn't all up in the news for some freak offs.
And more teach offs. Less freak offs, more teach offs.
We need more teach offs than freak offs, right? All up in the video. Stop it. So
shout out to the citizens, Citizen Stewart, and all the other citizens of the world fighting a good fight.
I just want to tell y'all, you're the first to hear this. This is very important news. Citizen Stewart might be retiring and being replaced by Comrade Chris. Just so you know, if you go to my Twitter handle right now, you will see.
I saw that. I did see that.
Go to my Twitter handle now. You are witnessing the birth of Comrade Chris. It is happening.
First thing I was gonna subtweet him like, my man is a communist now. You know what I mean?
It's
like
full circle now, ain't it? It's just full circle.
I mean, listen, Comrade cuts across a lot of different,
Yes,
viewpoints, right?
Yes,
so it's not just one thing, but
no, absolutely.
Just so you know. For people watching this and listening to this, please subscribe to our channel and share and comment. So that's how we make this show
successful. Many revolutionaries called each other comrades.
There you go.
Cracking up, but that wouldn't be as funny as saying like, my man's a communist. That was funnier.
This is true. If you go and read my exact bio on my Twitter handle, it'll make you laugh. You'll see all the stuff that I gotta read.
I gotta read.
So go look at it. As always, this has been another episode of Freedom Friday, and you are still not free, but hopefully you are freer now after this hour with Sharif, Ish, and me. We will catch you on the next episode. Please share the show, subscribe, comment. That all helps us out. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.